Hey movie buffs! Imagine getting kicked off your planet because it's basically a giant landfill, only to end up on XT-59, the literal armpit of the galaxy. This isn't just a prison planet. It's a humid, swampy death trap where the energy shield is the only thing keeping the local monsters from inviting you for a very permanent dinner. Here, the happy island is the only retirement plan, but the commute involves dodging mutant swamp tentacles that have a very personal way of saying hello. We've got Avin, a math genius who's better at solving riddles than staying alive, and a pack of convicts who think they're on a rugged camping trip. From pagan creatures that react to your every heartbeat to cannibals who missed the memo on humane punishment, XT-59 is the ultimate survival test. It's like Survivor, but with 100% more killer monsters and 0% chance of $1 million prize. Welcome to Movie Review Studio, where we decode the chaos so you don't have to. Today, we're calculating the survival odds in the gritty sci-fi thriller, The Calculator. Buckle up, because this logic is about to get messy, muddy, and potentially fatal. The movie kicks off by taking us thousands of years into the future. Earth became a total dumpster fire, so humans packed their bags and went planet hopping. They migrated to different habitable worlds and built civilizations with diverse governments, some prosperous, others corrupt and oppressive. Eventually, these planets united to form the League of the Free World, an organization dedicated to addressing the problems that affected the entire interplanetary community. One of their newer acquisitions was XT-59. Now, XT-59 is the kind of place you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. It's covered in impenetrable, toxic swamps. But despite the dampness and the mud, the early settlers managed to build a high-tech city called Titanium. Why they bothered, nobody knows, especially since titanium is essentially a giant petri dish surrounded by energy shields. These shields aren't for privacy, they're to keep out the bizarre, dangerous creatures wandering around the swamps. This planet is just the worst part of a Dark Souls game on extreme mode. The scene cuts to the titanium prison, where 10 lucky convicts are being sent to serve their sentence. The guards make an announcement revealing that they've been given one final chance to survive. Since there's no death penalty on this planet, they use the swamps as a natural alternative. They drop the prisoners outside the city and tell them that 300 kilometers away, there's a place called Happy Island. Reaching it is nearly impossible, but the lore says the chance must be given. The guards bring out a man in a hood, named Avin. They tell him to walk 20 steps forward into the fog. He kicks a stone, it hits the invisible shield in front of him, and sparks fly. Avin is terrified. He realizes the guards were trying to accidentally fry him. Once the mask is off, the guards drop a metal supply box and toss 9 more prisoners out before the shield zaps back on. Immediately, a man named Van declares himself the leader. He nicknames himself Polar Wolf and tries to convince everyone that he's the expert because he's survived this before. Seriously? Polar Wolf? Someone should definitely check his ego. He orders everyone to introduce themselves, but their meet and greet is cut short by a sound that chills their blood. A pagan creature erupts from the mud. It looks like a bundle of long, pale arms and pure aggression. Avin, who seems to know everything about the local biology, reveals that pagans react to vibrations. If you stand still, you're invisible. If you move, you're lunch. This particular monster is effectively blind, meaning it hunts based on the tremors in the ground. Once the monster clears out, Avin decides to go solo. He's got more knowledge than the rest of this ragtag group combined, and he doesn't need wolf boys slowing him down. A woman named Christy also decides to join him, seeing better odds with the math nerd than the narcissist. This enrages Van, but Avin doesn't care. He moves to open the supply box, causing the other prisoners to rush it like it's Black Friday. Avin is tactical. He ignores the food at first and grabs a knife. Van intimidates everyone and takes control of the crate, declaring that everything will be done his way. But Avin refuses to accept Van as a leader based solely on strength. When one of Van's thugs tries to humiliate Christy, Avin puts a knife to the guy's throat and demands their fair share of food, packs, and ropes. He knows the rules. Attacking another prisoner is forbidden, and the city guards are watching from the towers, ready to shoot anyone who violates the humane terms of their exile. Avin makes a final trade. He gives up his and Christie's food share for the empty metal supply box. Van thinks he's a fool, but Avin knows that out here, a sturdy metal box is worth more than a full belly. They head off, dragging the box like a very depressive sled. As they move deeper into the swamp, Christy notices a woman named Maria struggling to assemble her walking pole. Christy wants to help, but Owen shuts it down hard. He tells her that Maria doesn't stand a chance out here and that they cannot afford to carry any dead weight. It seems cold, but Owen is playing a high-stakes numbers game. Soon, they're approached by Leela, who wants to jump ship and join them. She offers to share her supplies and do anything to help. She even claims her husband, Matthias, decided to hide back in the city rather than face the swamp. She argues she'd be far more useful than Christy, but Owen remains loyal to his first partner. Their argument is cut short by the crack of a sniper rifle. Bullets fly from a nearby fortress. Owen and Christy dive behind a rock for cover. He realizes those shots were meant specifically for him. He tells Leela to beat it, as she's just drawing more attention to them. Leela, annoyed, heads back to the wolf pack. As they continue, they spot some crawling bugs. Christy is grossed out, but Owen explains they are harmless and actually a great source of protein. He's basically suggesting they eat space shrimp, but Christy isn't ready for the exotic diet yet. She begins to doubt Happy Island even exists, but Owen points out the military presence. If there was no way to survive, the guards wouldn't bother trying to assassinate him in the wilderness. Meanwhile, back at the facility, we see a military captain reporting to the president. The president is losing his mind because Owen is still breathing. It turns out the sniper was Leela's husband, Matthias, who was working for the government under the guise of being a prisoner. He's a professional killer hired to clean up the president's loose ends. Christy and Owen stop to rest near a rock where water is trickling down. While Christy tries to clean herself, Owen approaches her slowly from behind. He tells her not to move a muscle. Suddenly, a bizarre creature with a massive tentacle erupts from the ground. Owen tries to use his jacket to cover it, a brave but arguably stupid move, and the creature grabs him. Christy doesn't hesitate. She grabs her knife and hacks through the tentacle, freeing Owen. It's the first time we see them actually working as a team. Owen turns the severed tentacle into a primitive mace, though has taken some damage in the process. While Christy patches him up, she reveals why she's in prison. She was a simple woman trying to get a divorce, but a corrupt government official tried to assault her. She killed him in self-defense and was sent here to die. Van and his group catch up again, demanding the metal box. Owen waves his new tentacle club and proves that he's not just a nerd, he's a nerd with a weapon. Van, sensing the change in power, retreats into the fog. Not long after, Owen senses another pagan nearby. He and Christy play dead on the ground, but Van's group isn't as disciplined. One of his followers panics and breaks into a run. The pagan catches him in seconds and terminates his life. Christy wants to help the survivors, but Owen reminds her that they have to keep moving. Pity is a luxury they don't have. During another break, Owen confesses he was a mathematician. Christy asks for the story behind his exile. Owen offers a riddle. A girl needs 9 coins to buy chocolate, and a boy needs 1. They meet and combine their money to buy 1 bar and split it, but they are still 1 coin short. What was the price of the chocolate? Christy is so mentally exhausted by the swamp and the math that she just falls asleep mid-sentence. While Christy is unconscious, Owen goes to scout the area. She wakes up to find a swarm of small, aggressive creatures closing in. She panics and runs right into Owen, who shoves her into the metal supply box. They slam the lid shut and listen as the monsters claw at the outside, trying to find a way in. The box holds, but by the time they emerge, it's mangled and the handles are broken. It's useless now. They reach the actual swamp, a vast, churning sea of mud and toxic water. Owen tells Christy to walk in front because she's lighter. If she starts to sink, he can pull her back. It sounds logical, but Christy is starting to feel like she's just his scout. Van's group is still trailing them, but they're losing morale. Leela is fed up with Van's wolf act and realizes Owen is their only shot. She cuts herself loose from Van's ropes and runs for it. Van chases her but gets caught in a deep mire. His minions watch him sink and decide they're better off without him. Only a man named Jan has the mercy to pull him out. Christy finally corners Owen. She mentions that he lied about being a mathematician. He admits he was much more. He was the president's top advisor. He discovered the president was running a massive corruption ring and tried to stop him. The president framed him and sent him here to disappear. But Ovin is a mathematician. He thinks 3 steps ahead. He launched a virus into the city's control system. Soon, the satellites will fail, the grid will die, and the people will have to build something new. He's the only one who knows the kill code for the virus. In Titanium, the plan is already working. The systems are glitching, the communication is down, and the officials are seeing the unknown password prompt across every screen. They are blind and deaf, just like the pagans in the swamp. Leela and her remaining followers think they've caught up to Ovin, but they find something much worse. There are dwellers in the swamp, prisoners who have been out here for years and have survived by eating others. These cannibals snatch Maria from the group. Her screams echo through the fog, reaching Ovin and Christie. Christie begs to go back, but Ovin knows Maria is already gone. The cannibals finish her off and start their meal. Christie is broken by the brutality and asks who could have designed such a horrific punishment. Ovin drops the bombshell. It was his idea. He proposed their exile law to the president, thinking it was a humane alternative to the death penalty. He never imagined he'd be the one serving the sentence. Christie calls him a monster, and for once, the math genius has nothing to say. He starts screaming at the sky, inviting the monsters to kill him, but even the planet XT-59 seems to find him too bitter to eat. Christie reveals that the government tried to buy her off. They offered her freedom if she killed Ovin, but she chose him over the deal. Meanwhile, Van finds Leela and her group. He's back in alpha mode and notices a tracker on Leela's ankle. Before he can react, a massive web creature snatches Leela and suffocates her in front of them. Matthias, the government assassin, is closing in. He realizes his wife Leela is dead and is now fueled by pure revenge. Van's group is down to its final members. They realize Ovin is a high-value target and decide to capture him to trade for their own freedom. Ovin gets blindsided by Jan, who knocks him cold. He wakes up tied to a pole, watching Jan and Christie argue. Christie gives him a goodbye kiss, thinking this is the end. Van drags Ovin to the rotten marsh, the ruins of an ancient prison. He plans to trade their advisor to Matthias. But Ovin is the one who calculated the odds. He slips his bonds and vanishes into the ruins. Matthias arrives and finds only an empty pole. He's furious. He shoots Van in the leg and starts a game of hide-and-seek in the derelict prison. He finds Christie and Jan, kills Jan instantly, and takes Christie hostage. Ovin steps out of the shadows. He offers a trade, him for her. Matthias agrees, but as he moves to take Ovin, the wounded Van appears from the rubble and stabs Matthias through the back. Before he dies, Matthias fires a sleeping dart into Christie. Van, knowing he's too injured to survive the journey, takes a poison pill to end it on his own terms. Only Ovin, the old man Job, and a sleeping Christie are left. They reach a vast sea of floating islands, thick mats of vegetation that can hold a human's weight. They use one as a raft, but it starts to submerge under their combined weight. Job, the oldest of them, realizes the math doesn't work. He sacrifices himself, jumping into the water to save the others. A water creature immediately claims him. A government drone finds them and prepares to fire. But at the last second, Ovin's virus takes full control of the satellite network. The drone glitches, loses its target lock, and crashes into the water. They've won, or partially. They hit a waterfall that drops them onto a secret base. Ovin knows there's a spaceship here, the president's personal escape pod. But he's forgotten one digit of the security code. He remembers the riddle about the chocolate bar. The actual answer was 10 coins, but the president had answered 9. Ovin realizes the president would use his own wrong answer as the code. He has 2 attempts. He uses the first one with a random number just to check if the terminal logic is still active. Then, he enters 9. The base unlocks. Inside is a sleek, one-person ship. Ovin tells Christie to take it. He's the monster who created this place. He feels he should stay. But Christie refuses. She's seen the man behind the math and reveals she's in love with him. They manage to squeeze into the single pilot seat. It's tight, but it's space travel, not a first-class flight. As they blast off from XT-59, the entire titanium system blackout begins. The League of Free Worlds receives the data of Incent, exposing the atrocities. 10 years later, a new administration takes over titanium. But as the movie ends, we see that the new laws are even more brutal than the old ones. The cycle of the swamp continues. That's the wrap for today at Movie Review Studio. If you felt the pulse of this story, hit the gold button and subscribe for your daily cinematic deep dive. See you in the next one.